All right, so today we are taking a deep dive into something I find really fascinating. We're going to explore how the Baha'i Faith speaks to younger generations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of young folks today are looking for that balance between spirituality and science.
Yeah, totally.
And they often feel like traditional religions just aren't cutting it anymore.
Right?
So to really dig into this, we've got some excerpts from a document on key Baha'i teachings.
Awesome.
And it looks like it directly tackles this whole issue of young people feeling like, science and religion just don't mix.
Okay, so right off the bat, this document, it frames science and religion in a really interesting way. It's not about one being right and the other wrong. It's more like they're two sides of the same coin, you know?
Yeah, it's like two different paths leading to the same ultimate truth.
Exactly.
I mean, there's this really powerful quote from Abdul-Baha, who was a central figure in the early Baha'i faith.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Religion without science is superstition, and science without religion is materialism."
Wow.
That's deep, right?
Yeah, that's a powerful statement.
It really highlights how the Baha'i Faith views these two things, science and religion, as complementary.
Yeah, it's saying they both come from the same divine source. And that's huge because it means that true religion can never actually contradict scientific fact.
Right, and the cool thing is, this perspective actually encourages continuous learning.
How so?
Well, as science discovers more and more, our understanding of religious truth can evolve too.
Oh, I see. It's not about clinging to old interpretations, but being open to new insights that science reveals.
Right, exactly. And this is something that could be a sticking point, especially for younger generations.
Yeah.
Reconciling ancient scriptures with modern scientific understanding can be really tricky.
For sure. Take the 7-day creation story, for example. How do you make sense of that in light of what we know about evolution and the age of the universe?
Right. That's a classic example. I mean, I remember growing up and being taught to take the scriptures very literally, and, questioning them was kind of a no-no. So trying to reconcile those literal interpretations with scientific evidence was, let's just say it was a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So how does the Baha'i Faith approach this dilemma?
Well, they have this really interesting concept called symbolic interpretation.
Symbolic interpretation.
Yeah, so they believe that a lot of scriptures, like the creation story, are not meant to be taken literally. Instead, they're metaphors.
Metaphors. So they're pointing to deeper spiritual truth.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So rather than focusing on the literal timeline of 7 days, you're looking for the underlying message.
Right, and they actually have a whole book dedicated to this called the Kitab-i-Quran, which explores this idea of symbolic interpretation in depth.
So let me see if I've got this straight. If we take the example of the 7 days of creation, each day could actually represent a stage of spiritual development, right?
Exactly. Each day symbolizes a new level of understanding, of awareness, of spiritual growth.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works. So the creation of humans in this story, that would represent our capacity for both material and spiritual progress.
Right, you got it.
That's pretty profound.
It is. And it opens up a whole new way of reading these ancient texts. You can appreciate their wisdom, their spiritual insights, without having to reject scientific knowledge.
Right. It bridges that gap between faith and reason, allowing both to coexist and even enrich one another.
Exactly. And that's something that's very appealing, I think, to a lot of people today, especially younger generations who value both scientific understanding and spiritual exploration.
For sure. Okay, so we see this flexible, metaphorical approach to Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
But what else is unique about the Baha'i Faith? How does it stand apart from other religions?
Well, one thing that's quite different is the Baha'i Faith doesn't have clergy.
No clergy. So, wait, does that mean there's no one to interpret the teachings or lead services or anything like that?
Exactly. You're encouraged to connect with God directly. To read the sacred texts for yourself, to ponder them, and to come to your own understanding.
Wow. That's a pretty radical departure from the traditional structures we're used to.
It is, but it really empowers individuals,
I can see that. It really puts the responsibility of seeking truth squarely on the individual.
Exactly. There are no intermediaries, no one telling you what to believe.
So it's all about personal responsibility and that individual journey of spiritual discovery.
Precisely. The Baha'i Faith really emphasizes this idea of independent investigation of truth.
So you're not just supposed to blindly accept doctrines. You're supposed to question, explore, and form your own convictions.
Yeah, that's a key principle for them.
Fascinating. Okay, so we've talked about how the Baha'i Faith reconciles science and religion on a personal level, encouraging individual exploration and understanding. But what about the bigger picture? I mean, where does the Baha'i Faith see humanity headed?
Well, they envision this future golden age,
A golden age, like a utopia.
It's not exactly a utopia in the traditional sense, but it is a vision of a unified global civilization.
Unified meaning.
Where material and spiritual progress are in harmony.
So it's not just about, like, technological advancements and stuff.
No, it's also about how we treat each other, how we understand our place in the world, and how we cultivate our inner selves.
So it's about human maturity, in a sense.
Exactly. It's this idea that intellectual and spiritual development go hand in hand.
And this leads to global peace, justice, and prosperity.
Right. The Baha'i Faith really believes that the world is moving towards this golden age,
Wow, that's an optimistic vision, for sure.
It is.
And I see how it connects back to this principle, the oneness of humanity, which is so central to the Baha'i Faith.
Oh, absolutely. That's a core belief.
Right, so that means that social structures should promote cooperation and equality, not division and competition.
Exactly.
And it also explains why the Baha'i Faith is so supportive of scientific advancement.
That's right. They see science as a tool for the betterment of humanity, something that can help us build this golden age.
So to sum it up, the Baha'i Faith is saying that science and religion are not at odds.
Right.
They're both essential for human progress.
Yes.
And this is a message that really resonates with a lot of people today, especially those who are seeking a more holistic and integrated worldview.
Totally. It's a faith that embraces both reason and revelation, and I think that's incredibly powerful.
I agree. It's been really eye-opening to explore these Baha'i teachings. It challenges that age-old conflict between faith and reason and offers a really refreshing perspective.
It does, and it makes you wonder. What if those traditional religious structures, the ones that feel so incompatible with modern life, what if they're not the only way? What if embracing individual exploration and a more metaphorical understanding of Scripture, what if that's the key to bridging the gap between faith and reason?
That's a great question, and one that I think a lot of us are grappling with today. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. It's been a fascinating journey.
It has. Thanks for having me.